Welcome to the Love Pod, where inspiration, vision, and real connection come alive. Wherever you are, you belong here.
Welcome to the Love Pod, everyone. I am your host, Nathaniel. I'm so pleased today to have just an awesome brother, an amazing man, community builder, Alex Ruiz, who is also an Emmy Award-winning artist whose career is just incredible. It spans everything from working on The Simpsons, Disney, Marvel, Universal, and now what you're doing, Alex, is you're blending everything and you're helping emergent artists through neuroscience, through creativity, to become the artists they were born to be. And I just think that is such a fantastic service to the world. It's near and dear to my heart. You and I have had some conversations, and I just feel like there's so many people who are starting to get to know you in this way, but I just see you have this huge mission. So I'm just so thrilled to have you on the show, brother. I'd love for you to just tell us more about who you are and what's your fire behind this passion that you have.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you. Thank you, brother. Yeah, so great to be here with you, Nathaniel. Thanks for having me on, first of all. And yeah, it's been heavy on my heart to teach others to do what I've been doing pretty much my entire life and to be able to alchemize the process. Because it's one thing to be able to create art, and it's another thing to be able to teach it in useful and practical ways, right?
Mm,
So the past few years, I've been really getting into, okay, how do I do this? Like I already know how to draw and paint and sculpt and all that stuff, and people have been asking me for years that they want to learn, and so it's just been something very, like I said, heavy on my heart to serve this, what I see is now medicine,
mm,
especially in this day and age where there's a lot of stress in the world, and art and creativity can be, I know it is for me, very healing and very comforting. And we need to express ourselves in some way, otherwise the pressure builds up and then explodes in potentially negative ways.
mm.
So art is a great release. It's a great pressure valve release, as it were. It's a great way to express. It's a great way to be creative more than being consumers, right? And for me, it all comes back to creativity and how can I, express myself and show what's on the inside, on the outside, right? And writing is a great way to do that, but sometimes you want to be a bit more cryptic. And that's the cool thing about art is that you can be much more expressive, much like poetry. It's much more suggestive and there's innuendos and there's ways to communicate how we're feeling safely through visual creativity
Mm.
rather than direct words. But for me, it's all beautiful ways to express ourselves. So that's what I'm working on now to help other people uncover that within themselves and to share their work and to, if that involves selling or not. And that's a whole other thing, like how artists sell their work. But if anything, helping people express themselves, express their hearts to the world.
I think there's so much here we could talk about, and I love the name of your community. It's just so awesome, Infinite Artist, because I think that
Mm,
this is the challenge and the invitation of art, right? And I feel like it's why a lot of people talk about that, the fear of the blank page, the fear of the blank canvas. It's like it could be anything, And I feel like I've met different kinds of artists in more like social work programming, like people approach things differently. A lot of people want like that control. And one of the things I
mm,
love to do is intergenerational workshops with wet on wet watercolor because it's like letting go of the control and seeing what that elemental
mm,
reflection will become. And like you're talking about that, bringing what's on the inside on the outside. I feel like it's the quintessential aspect of what makes us human beings. And we're at this really interesting crossroads right now with a lot of emergent technologies. I hear a lot of people calling themselves AI artists, and I have questions around that because if you're prompting, not just prompting, but you're prompting images and saying calling yourself an artist, I feel like there is there's some silver linings we need to explore because to me that artist is not just about the product that you're creating. It's really that process, and it's there's a mystical element and there's a becoming. And I feel like it is a clear path to mastery because you're literally working with the elements, whether it's, mediums like, liquid glass or color, or you're working with mediums and you're crafting something, you're finessing your expression, like you said. And I really do believe it is a pathway to greater states of consciousness and even to full awakening to who we really are when we recognize that we are like where we come from, and we are from a creative source of being, whatever we want to call it. And I feel like art is one of these weird things in our world. I had the opportunity, it was my favorite job that I ever had, like job, where I worked at the National Gallery of Canada. I was an art interpreter and animator is what they called us. And basically my job was they had like
Mm.
these satellite studios where there was different activities to the gallery, and there was an actual studio where parents and children would come and do art. And I got to give tours, and I could structure the tour the way I wanted to. And I was actually paid to learn about art, and to I was paid like 10 hours a week to just read about art and stuff. And one of the things I noticed, Alex, and I'd like to talk about this with you too, because you talk about the profession of art, because a lot of children are told, you don't want to go into the arts, you'll be a starving artist. And yet, the juxtaposition of that is, if you think of what are the most valuable objects in the world, it's art, It's like the most
Right.
expensive things that exist in all of the world are pieces of art. So it's like we have this really weird love-hate relationship with art. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that with you.
Amazing. Wow. Yeah, you hit on so many points there that we could talk about one of each one of those things, and
Yeah,
it'll be an hour
probably.
or two long. I guess that we'll start with the AI because that's been heavy on so many artists' minds and hearts for a while now. And I remember in 2022 when this the AI explosion happened, where people were uploading their pictures to these apps and then getting their psychedelic higher self portraits
Mm.
of them. And that was my business. That was like a literal business of mine. That was my main
Interesting.
income. And that business died overnight. Like literally one day I was getting all these requests, and then the next day that app came out, and then everyone started doing that, and then people just stopped reaching out to me. And I realized, oh, whoa, I felt it kind of firsthand, kind of directly.
Wow.
And now I'm just seeing that AI is coming for everything. It's coming for coders and writers and everyone and people in film, and everyone's freaking out now. And I remember I went through that 4 years ago. So I've had some time to process this. And eventually people started reaching back out to me, and they said, I want a human to do my portrait.
Mm.
And so I started doing digital portraits again. But what all of this is kind of leading me back towards is traditional artwork, drawing on paper, canvas,
Mm.
clay, sculpture. You mentioned glass, things we create with our hands, things that we can touch, things we can show the process. Not that you can't do that
Mhm.
digitally, but to be able to, we live in an age where we have to prove that we made the art.
Mm.
And that's what I'm always telling my students and fellow artists. You have to record your process. You
Mm.
have to take progress shots, put your phone on, put a camera on. That's what's going to separate the artist from the AI artist. And so
Mm.
again, who
Interesting.
gets to call themselves an artist? Who gets to do that? And then the question comes to, well, what is art, right?
Mhm.
And it's such a nebulous, ephemeral thing. It's like, I think art is, or I believe art is, if you have the intention to make art, then that's art, right? Whether it's an oil painting or it's a banana taped to a wall,
Mhm.
as
Mhm.
ridiculous as that whole thing is, right? That artists ended up selling that banana for like $200,000 because
Yeah.
some rich guy loved the novelty of it. And so there's so many things that go into like what is art and who is an artist, and who in the beginning when I started seeing the hashtag AI artist, I was like, that is just sacrilege. That is horrible. Like, how dare they? 4 years ago. And it's still a contentious thing when I see it. But now I just always ask myself, okay, well, these people are trying to express themselves. And I love that. It's beautiful. But at the same time, at least show your process. If you're an AI artist, show
Yeah.
your prompting process, show how you created it. Like if you are just posting it and saying, I made this in Midjourney and I'm an AI artist, it's honestly it's kind of gross and it's a bit disrespectful to the people that labor years and years and years on their craft. And but at the same time, like I said, they're expressing their hearts, and there's a bit of false pride in what they're doing. Because again, it's like you put in a prompt and you can say, like when I was on The Simpsons, the writers, they would give us a script and they would write one line, and one of those lines would be Springfield erupts in a riot. And it's like, what the fuck? And then we had, sorry, can you
It's
edit that
okay.
out?
It's all reggae, man. It's all good. It's all good. It's the internet. It's fine.
But that's how we were like, oh, now we have to draw that? Great. They would just write one thing, and that's again, these AI prompters, they would write one line and they would get this majestic piece of imagery or now animation
Yeah.
that then they go and they post and they're like, look what I made, look what I did. And it's kind of akin to the writers saying, yeah, we wrote that episode where Springfield goes in a riot, but like we had to draw it all. And like we got carpal tunnel and tendonitis from like drawing all these scenes that take months and months and
Yeah.
months to
Yeah.
draw. So again, I think that this whole, AI explosion is making a lot of people realize, hey, I want to like actually learn how to do this. I want to
Yeah.
learn how to draw. I want to learn how to paint. I want to learn how to animate
Mm.
by hand or digitally, right? And it's driving a bunch of people back into the world of actually crafting something with their hands, whether it's pencil or stylus.
Yeah.
So I see that's the blessing in all of this. Yeah. So that
Yeah.
was the AI part. Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, and you led into the intellectual component of art too, which is where a lot of people I think get confused with art because like, well, what's a banana taped to a wall? And that's what I learned too, is like that there is a big distinction between like professional artists and artists who are just, not just like there's the working artists who are doing like replications or doing like just a lot of body of work, say they're landscapes or whatever, and they're beautiful paintings. But then there's artists who are in the intellectual philosophical realms of things where they're conveying a message to humankind to expand consciousness in some way. And I feel like both of those qualities to, when it comes to like high level galleries, that's, when people have maybe extra money or time on their hands, that's where they like to kind of hang out in these galleries where that are going to get them to think outside of their bubble. So that I feel like there is a role for that in art. There is a role for the toilet seats, the all the weird stuff that gets people talking. And yet I am totally with you in terms of that labor for the craft, and the people who really like love something so much that it's about to me, I like to think of it like creating worlds. And to me, that the actual journey of being on a page and watching something unfold from the imagination that didn't exist before is what I always loved. I love doing like nature drawing and stuff like that, but just allowing some scene, something to emerge. Like I used to look at Frank Frazetta paintings when I was a kid. My dad had those books. And it was like I was looking at a man who was able to go into other dimensions and take photographs at like the perfect moment of these paintings, of these action scenes. And and it just caused so much in my own imagination to like it wonder. And I don't know about you. I mean, there's a lot of talk on school, when someone writes something that clearly is AI generated. There's a lacking of something essential that makes it human, and I feel like that's true for arts too. Like I do digital art as well on my iPad. And I've never seen an AI be able to do it like I do it. It's just so there's something of an essence to it, and I feel like there's this clear distinction that like we have this sense as humans when something is authentic or inauthentic. There's something about us that we have this like awareness. At least some of us who are maybe more sensitized to feeling. Um, so I love that what you're saying is like people are being drawn back into just the act of creating is where the joy is. It's not in the final product. And I feel like that's where people obsess over the final product. But for most working artists, as soon as you're done that art, you're already on to the next thing. And it's like that probably will feed you you know, that's that's the goal, but you want to keep making things that are going to continue to expand, right?
So beautifully said. Yeah, and like you said, it's, the process is what's enjoyable and also very tumultuous at times. Sometimes you're looking at a piece and it's not coming out the way you want, and you're like, you're such a, piece of shit, and how, you're never gonna make all these things come through the
Mm,
process of like this inner growth that happens, and the inner critic really comes out to play when you're creating a piece of art, and learning how to talk to that voice through the art. And it's a beautiful spiritual experience that people aren't getting to experience when
hmm
they're creating AI art. And the whole term AI art, there is no AI art, it's AI imagery.
Yeah.
So the people that call it AI art, there was a big ruling that came out the other day about you can't copyright AI art. And
Right.
it's a huge win, but people are asking me, what do you think of this? I'm like, well, first of all, yeah, it's a great win, but it's not AI art, so stop calling it that. Like, I
Yeah.
just want to get that out of people's heads and into, what it means to create and what it means to call something art. And again,
hmm
who am I to say what other people think is art? It's very subjective. So I keep going in these interesting loops where I'm like, who am I to say what's art or
Yeah.
not? But you've hit at it. I'm talking about the process. And, sometimes I'll see these videos of on YouTube where it's like, there are these drawings, and I'm like, is that AI or not? They look like pencil drawings.
Mm,
But I know that the technology can do that now.
yeah.
And you can tell it make bad art. So it's like
Yeah.
making these like stick figure art. And I'm like, did someone draw that, or is that AI doing that? All the reason to come back to record your
Yeah.
process, take,
Yeah.
take photos of it. Video is better, like your hand doing that, because pretty soon, I mean, they are making robots that can draw and paint, and it's fun, it's cute, it's a novelty,
Yeah.
But when it comes to like feeling, I think that's what it comes down to. Like, can once robots start to feel like, okay, we're in some whole other world there. But right now, it's just they're tools, they're extensions of us, they're highly evolved tools in many ways, but they're not feeling the way that humans feel. And yeah, it's definitely a very contentious and powerful, reality that we're in when we're talking about who gets to be an artist and who doesn't. And
hmm
uh, but like I said, I really appreciate the people that are starting to feel that, oh, I want to do this, but for real now,
Yeah.
right? Because they tried the AI thing. It was fun for a while, kind of
Yeah.
like when NFTs exploded. A lot of people got really rich, a lot of people got really ripped off, but then it just kind of faded away because people realized, well, what the hell is an NFT anyway? It's pixels, right? It's the same with AI imagery. It's all pixels. Like
Yeah.
there's not any real canvases or paper. And so for me, it's a human thing to be able to draw and
hmm
love the process, like we're talking about, and then to have like an artifact that you made that you're proud
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
and then what you do with it from there is whatever you want to do. But yeah, it's the process that makes it powerful.
Yeah. And I think there's room for using AI as a collaborative, like a
Sure.
co-creative tool. And I've done some experiments where like I take images of the light language that I do and I've uploaded it and say, what would you make over this? And then I'll like go and overlay it with more and I'll
Mhm.
like embellish it more. So it's like a back and forth. Because I mean, just the ability to amplify creativity is part of that tool. But when it's just a hands-off process, I agree with you. It is gross in the sense that not from a judgmental sense, but just in the sense of like, where's the subtlety of expression and relationship that art is meant to convey? It's meant to be like a journey in and of itself when you're doing it, and two, I think that's why people go to galleries and stuff because they want to feel something. And I've never looked at a digital piece of art and be like, oh, this, I feel this thing. It's like it just but I've been in galleries where I've just had these favorite paintings and there's just like an essence to them. It's something with the movement and the color, and there's something that's captured of the soul, I think, in our creative expression that is
Mhm.
just intangible, and I don't think it can be reproduced. Um, And maybe AI too, as it's solving some of our bigger social problems. Like, I think one of the things Elon Musk talked about is that the biggest problem we're going to have in the future is purpose, because people are going to have less to do because there's going to be a lot more automation. And there's probably going to be AI is probably going to solve money in some big ways, probably where a lot of people have, things automated in the background that will be generating, whether it's a day trading or whatever, who knows, or selling products, and they can be, have more time. And then art and creativity is the perfect extension. So I feel like you're positioning yourself, and I think who is in those spaces, because now I see you're a community builder. I think that's an art in of itself, Alex. Can
Mhm.
you talk a little bit about that process of like going from a professional, traditional artist, like working on The Simpsons, working in Marvel? I'm sure some of our listeners would want to know like kind of what your experiences were in those domains, and then transitioning into you know creating a space where other artists can flourish. Like that's a total, to me, an expansion of what you're doing in terms of impact, and also must be so elevating for you as well.
Yeah, it really is. And as we were talking about earlier, working on those other projects and for these particular groups and organizations, I was able to work with or work on a lot of different things as a professional artist. And it really fulfilled me to such a large degree that, and even just until last year, I had a big art show, and it was kind of like my last big stepping stone before or it was more of a portal before I became a community leader and a teacher, a mentor, a guide, right? But I feel that I had to get a lot of things out of my system because there was an inner artist in me that was saying, no, no, we got to be. I mean, it was highly egoic. It was like, we got to be the best artist in the world. We got to be the next Leonardo. We got to work on this and this and this and the other thing. And I did get to work on a lot of things with a lot of amazing people. And this art show is this threshold that I finally kind of broke through. But it was kind of a long period of like dark night of the soul stuff because the artist in me was like fighting for its survival.
Mm,
And it felt like it was going to die if the teacher came in. So there was these two archetypes that were fighting. And it really makes you think if you have these archetypal energies in you that are fighting, who the hell is watching, right?
mm,
You get back
mm,
to the you get back to the witness consciousness, and you're stepping back and you're seeing this fight happen. Try not to identify with either or, but for years I was the artist. Ever since I've been drawing and creating since before I remember being conscious, alive. And then to have that kind of challenged, it was the artist for me was the king on the chessboard.
mm,
And then the teacher mentor was a pawn,
mm,
right? It was a much smaller character, but as in chess, the pawn can take down a king.
mm,
And so that's what started happening over the course of a few years. And then it reached a crescendo last year. But I kind of made a deal with the inner artist saying, okay, we're going to have this art show and it's going to be epic and it's going to be like a masquerade ball. And it had my best work up until this point and live music and dancing and body painting and snakes and just super sexy and sensual. And yeah, it's all on my Instagram. It's
it's
fantastic.
amazing.
And yeah, and then literally the next day was like this kind of shedding of a lot of these older ideas and taking on the new cloak, as it were, of the mentor, the teacher, the guide, and what that's going to look like in the next, for the rest of my life, kind of thing.
Mm.
And it took a while, and even just until recently. So I just turned 50 the other day, and I'm like, okay, I've
Happy
lived half
birthday,
a
man.
century. Thank you, man. Yeah, I've lived half a century, and it was like, oh, is this another portal, another like the day after my birthday was I felt like I was zero again in
Mm,
some interesting way. And it's like, oh, I get to start this new life, but I have all of the wisdom and memories of the past life.
mm,
And I get to start this new life as the teacher and mentor and guide, as the primary archetype. And I also make art on the side. And
Mm,
it took me a while, like I've been saying, to come to terms with that. The artist was always number one. And now, well, the artist isn't, I don't want to say is number two, but I am now a teacher, mentor, guide
mm,
who also makes art for fun and all that, but I'm not doing it professionally. And so it took so long to get to this point, and it was an identity shift. And whenever you have to reconstruct an identity, an older identity has to die. So part of you has to die. And so this is why I love doing shadow work and
mm, mm.
Jungian analysis and dream work and all this amazing stuff. And I find that I'm getting new ideas for new pieces of art.
Mm.
And yet now it's like, no, I don't need to prove anything. I've already proved enough as an artist. I get to do it for fun.
Yeah.
But what I'm excited about now is helping other people uncover their inner artist and to just blossom and bloom and explode in their creativity. That is what lights me up these days. So that's where I'm at right now.
Man, what an alchemical transformation.
Yes.
And if I can mirror back to you, Alex,
Yes.
I feel like that's another level of art, to now impart your gifts. To me, when you were talking about teacher and artist, I saw this like there's the magician, there's the mystic that's also an archetypal figure that is part of that. I think that transformative aspect of us that is the creator, right? And is the one that brings things out from nowhere. And your ability to bring that out of others. Like this is I always like the term educator, not maybe over teacher, but I mean teaching has a role, but the root word of education, why we call Lightheart Vision an education association, is because educare or to educe means to draw or bring out what is within. And so now you've
Mm,
taken this role as an artist and you're able to bring that out from others. So I just see it as like this really beautiful expansion of the artist that's taking on another like quantum level that you're actually having more impacts. Because I mean, the truth is there is a lot of ego in the art world. I mean, I noticed it, and that's kind of why I never like I always did my own thing, and I was always like I spent a lot of time by myself in artist in nature and stuff because I never really I liked having conversations, but I found like there was could be in the art world this like a lot of butting up of heads, and I just never like that. But I was never in also like professional places like what you've done. Like a huge amount of like teamwork and collaboration goes into like making a Marvel movie or making a Simpsons episode because there's so many moving parts and players. Like you have to work as a team. So I'd imagine there's probably less ego, but I could be totally wrong.
well, I guess whenever you're dealing with artists, there will be egos to varying degrees. But if we were to go back on my journey as a Simpsons animator, well, I'll just talk about how quickly I got onto the show because people are kind of blown away sometimes when I tell them, "Oh, it's like a throwaway line for me now." Yeah, I worked on The Simpsons for 15 years. I'm like, "What?" You like, and
15 of what,
the,
50 years that they've been on or something
yeah,
crazy?
dude.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the question is, how the hell did you get that? And so when I was 16, I saw Aladdin, the Disney animated film, and I was like, I have to do that. So that was like that
Wow.
first point of like massive inspiration. And so my goal was Disney, and I create a portfolio for Cal Arts, which was the art school that you go to. If you want to go to Disney, you go to Cal Arts. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to Cal Arts, get the portfolio ready, submit it. And they're like, no, you're not coming here. You suck. And I totally sucked. But I had the drive and I was like totally defeated. And, anyways, I kind of found another really amazing short-term training program. And then they said, okay, Disney's not hiring, but the Simpsons are taking interns. And I remember thinking, F the Simpsons, that's not art. Like, I'm going to Disney, like I'm going to Aladdin. Like, I'm not going to draw these like big-eyed yellow people. Like, that's not. And they were like, you got nothing else, kid. Like, you might as well even try. Just try. And I submitted my portfolio and I got the internship. And they only took like 3 interns a year out of hundreds of portfolios. And I thought, okay, I'll take this serious, but I'm still going to Disney. I'll be here 2 years max. And 15 years later, I'm like, I'm still there. And I'm like, what happened to Disney? And I got comfortable. I got comfortable, golden handcuffs, paid really well. The artists on the show became my family, and it was really beautiful. But then I ended up kind of waking up and was like, I'm not supposed to be doing this the rest of my life. And then I had another Aladdin moment when I saw the behind the scenes of Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh
And I
yeah.
saw all these artists sitting around a table drawing monsters. And I'm like, I got to do that. And so that kind of led me down the road into conceptual art as a concept artist. And 10 years after that decision, I'm working for Disney and Marvel and all of these big companies as a conceptual artist in film. So basically, the gist of that job was they would hand me a script and they're like, we don't know what this stuff looks like, draw it. And I was like, yes,
Wow.
it was such a cool
Wow.
job. So I did that for about 5 years and worked on a lot of big Avengers films and Beauty and the Beast and Fast and Furious and Spider-Man's and just commercials and VR and just all this stuff. And then I had that moment again of like, I'm not supposed to be doing this. And then I got into the health and wellness world because I needed it. I needed to get better physically, mentally, emotionally. And then I started doing meditation and psychedelics and getting into Joe Dispenza's work and getting into the Burning
Mm.
Man culture. And eventually I started doing artwork for Burning Man and Joe Dispenza, right? So I started lending my talents to these other organizations and people. And it was right around that time that I was like, oh, I want to teach now. I want to really get into this. And um, that's when I had this revelation of, yeah, I want to now, I make art, but I also want to help make artists. So,
It's beautiful,
um,
man. It's really beautiful.
yeah. So it's been a great journey, and I love teaching. I love watching people light up when they create something. I love watching people draw. That's kind of like a weird kink of mine. If I see people sitting around drawing, it's like, oh, that's sexy. So,
That's amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I think you're a natural teacher, Alex. I've had the opportunity of
Mm,
sitting on a few. And as you're talking, one of the things I've noticed is like as an entrepreneur, I'm just there's it's so overwhelming, it like never ends. And I haven't been doing what I loved. And I knew
mm,
that on this show I would be wanting to talk with you about like the importance of making space to do what you love and listening to that little voice that says, I'm not supposed to be doing this. And because I feel like so many people will put off those things. And now I've experienced, I never thought I would, I'm like, oh, I'll always, because I used to draw a lot before having our daughter and everything and just spend a lot of time writing, but then life can have a way of kind of taking over. And one of the things I value most about artists now is realizing, like you said at the beginning, the intentionality to actually make art. It sounds like such a simple thing. Well, yeah, I just intended to make it and I did it. But actually to make space and in time in your life to do it, especially in a day and age where people are so filled with time, it actually is really precious. And I feel like what you're saying is the value of art is going to increase over time because so I feel like there's going to be a deficit of people who are not writing by hand. I mean, already like people
mm,
don't write cursive anymore. Like
yeah.
and so the ability to draw, the ability to paint and know how to work with the mediums and all this stuff. These are going to become rarer skill sets. It's like my dad. This is a funny story. I was rock climbing one time with a guy and started talking with him, got to know him, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm a cabinet maker." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. My dad's a cabinet maker. I grew up." Around woodworking. And my dad is a cabinet maker, but he was an artist and he worked with wood. That became his medium, and that's how he, supported our family. And but he would just do everything in a home, like all the trim, all the windows, everything, and just really make these really interesting, like Star Trek lights and very unique style. And he drew and paint, but I when we moved to the country. I was like helping him log at like 13. We were felling the trees, cutting them on planks, I know how to bookend cabinets and do all the planing and joining and all that stuff. I've had experience with that and making the cabinets and all that stuff. And so I talked to this guy and he's like, "Yeah, I'm a cabinet maker." And I'm like, "Okay, well, yeah, tell me more about your work." He's, "Yeah, basically I run a CNC machine and then I put the boxes together." And I was like, "And?" you know and he didn't make any doors, he didn't do any of the joining, the planing, and I'm like, wow. I said, Mike, like there's not too many guys like my dad probably who do all of from the tree up to
Mm,
the cabinet. And so when I'm listening to you, I would imagine in like animated series now, like the Simpsons are probably not doing as much hand drawing, if any. Like there's a lot of like series that have probably moved. And so you're bringing, like, I think I love that you become a teacher because now you're bringing all this like beautiful skills that are so
Mm.
valuable that are probably a lot rarer. And it's a lot rarer to have an artist who's willing to teach. Because I remember like listening to Frank Frazetta as an example again. He's like, I can't teach anybody to draw. He's like, I can't do it. He's like, I just draw. That was his instruction for it. Just draw. So I
Sounds
love
like
that you,
something.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So bringing all of the things, and you mentioned writing, which is great. And yeah, the fact that a lot of people are not writing cursive anymore. And, but people are doing this with their two
Right.
thumbs. And I remember reading this study about the amount of neurons firing when you're handwriting versus this is just, it's a massive amount. Like when you're writing cursive, you have a lot of brain activity going, a lot of connections being made. And when you're doing this, it's like two. It's like, I don't know, it's like we're reverting back to, caveman days, which,
Interesting.
they had
Okay.
their thing and they were making art too. But now, again, a lot of artists, a lot of younger artists have this mentality, and I just see it in comments and everywhere of like, why bother? The machines can draw or paint better than me. They can do everything better than me. Why bother doing anything? So the amount of like apathy and indifference among the younger generation is kind of terrifying because they're the future of this world.
Mhm.
And if they're just saying, well, I don't give a damn about anything because the machines can do everything, it's just, we're heading into like Wall-E land where people are they're just letting the machines do everything and they are not taking care of themselves and they are
Mhm.
just falling apart. And
Mhm.
yeah, so I think we are in a have a good opportunity now to help a lot of people in their creativity.
Yeah.
And for some people, they're like, I don't know how to draw. I don't know where to start. And I'm like, can you write your name? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, we start there.
Mm.
Literally with cursive. We do creative writing, but we do cursive, and that can be done with the calligraphy pen. It can even be done on an iPad if you have an iPad and an iPad pencil. They
Mhm.
have some really cool calligraphy tools. But anyway, you like one of the biggest schools on school is the calligraphy school,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
And it's just great that people are still into that. So that's a great way to learn how to draw. It's because it's all about controlling the line. If you
Yeah.
control the line, you control the drawing. So that's where I start with people that are terrified and they're not sure where to start. I just always assume that most people can still write, but as you've been saying, it's kind of a dying art, cursive
Yeah.
writing. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't teach it
Hmm.
in school anymore, man. They don't teach it. So
Really?
yeah, it's not a thing. People print, and I think it's. I mean, I'm probably a rare breed because my parents had some resistance to like the internet and stuff in the country, and it was dial-up. Anyways, I still can hear that sound. It echoes in the
Yeah, I
chambers of
remember
eternity.
that.
Anyways,
Yeah.
going. But watching my daughter now, she just turned 2 years young.
Mm,
Everyone always asks how old she is, which I find is just such a
wow.
funny question, right? We
Yeah.
start right off the bat asking people if how old they
Right.
are. It's so
Old. Yeah.
hilarious. And I love how you said starting at zero again, because we're eternal beings, and we go through
Yes.
cycles. But
Yes.
watching her, as you were talking, it reminded me of this book I have called Original Strength. And it's
Mm,
about learning how to move our bodies by mimicking the functionality and the evolution of movement from baby. So the first thing you start with is head control, right? Head
yeah.
control, and they're on their tummy. So and then it's like a lot of rolling and rocking. So sitting back
Mhm.
into the things and getting that core strength, and then tummy time rolling from back to front, front to back, and then with arms and legs. And as you were talking, I was like, I feel like there's a place for this in terms of learning art development too, because what I noticed with Luciana, at first it was all about being able to like hold a tool, and I noticed like she would draw like this or like this, and Julia came and she's like, no, this is how you hold it, and I said, no, I said, no, no,
Mm,
no, 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 you can draw a lot of
yeah.
ways. You can draw like this, you can draw like this, you can draw like that, like you can hold it many ways. She does both hands. I do both hands. So I feel like artists maybe have explored more possibilities and of combinations of mediums and things.
Mhm.
And at first she was just doing marks. She would just do this, and it was just about making a mark. And now she's actually she's got one of those really cool little tablets that um, you can just reset it, and it's like this interesting technology. You
Yeah, yeah.
can, yeah. And she's closing forms, and she's just getting her control, and she's making like little amorphous circles and stuff. And she's really, I can see her. She's really concentrating on the control, and it's like I'm not teaching her how to do stuff. I'll talk to her and I'll, like encourage her,
Mhm.
but she's like, I feel like we have this innate longing or desire to create as a species. Like it's just
Yeah.
who humans are. So even though there may be a generation who looks at AI and just feels like that apathy of like, "Pff, why bother? I mean, if I want a song, I just have to, hey, make this sound like Tupac rapping with JC
Right.
and then rap about heaven, and then I'm done. And then I wrote my song and copyright,
Right.
you know. But I feel like it's going to also have this. Every generation has a rebellion like against it. Be like, I think there's going to be a generation of children that are going to be so against smartphones because first of all,
Mhm.
it's smart technology. We know what that acronym stands for, and plus, there's the addiction, and they're going to see that addiction, and they're going to be like, well, I can just go into an XR world, which I'm very interested in from an artistic point of view. I can just go and do that like for an hour a day, and I'm good, and then I can be in real life with people, and I have my real relationships, and I can talk to my world friends and do creative games and stuff in another place. Why do
Mm.
I want to be on this little tiny screen, like hunched over? I don't know. It's probably not even going to exist in a few years, but you know what I mean? Like there's this rebellion. So I'm wondering, that brings me to the question of evolution, Alex. Like you're now building this beautiful community, Infinite Artists, and we'll put that in the show notes too. Like and so I want to give people a good window to connect and learn from you. Um, and also, how do you see yourself evolving as this artist in this new dimension, or is it still kind of into the unknown for you?
Mm. Great question. Yeah, I think that, yeah, being an artist is being open to evolve. And it's kind of ironic that many artists feel that they have created a style and then they're stuck with it and they have to keep creating it because that's what they're known for. And how dare they change their style? And that's what happens with a lot of fans of artists who change their style or change their genre. They turn on them, because they didn't stay the same. And I feel it's so important for artists to evolve. And, if you looked at my work, well, you look at the Simpsons drawings, and then you look at my art show work from last year, it's completely two different universes.
Hmm.
Looks like two different people. And then you look at my Marvel Disney conceptual art stuff, and there was a time when I was actually known as like a dark artist, meaning I was drawing a lot of devils and demons and
Hmm.
dark, scary things, and because it was what I was into at the
Hmm.
time. And then there was a time when I was known as like a light artist, drawing magical beings and ascended people with halos and third eye, explosions. And it was a different artist at every point, a
Hmm.
different evolution. And so, as far as I was mentioning earlier, I've really created this really broad spectrum of art, and it's really fulfilled me. And so for me, moving forward as an educator and artist, it's just bringing me back to my love for human anatomy. You
Hmm.
see that there's a
Yeah.
sculpture up there,
Yeah.
and I just love the human form. I think the human form is the most beautiful thing in the entire universe,
Mm.
and from the skeleton up. And
Yeah.
so I've been studying that since I was about 19 years old. We had to know how the human moved in order to
Yeah.
make a character move. So in order to make Homer run, I had to know how a human runs. So we would always be in life drawing classes many times a week. Live model, nude model, male, female, all sizes, all shapes. And it's just something that has stuck with me this entire time. So moving forward, that is just something that's kind of a big dream of mine, is to have a studio where I have models come in and I teach figure drawing classes. It can be
Hmm.
done online too, but it really helps to see it in person.
Yeah, there's a three-dimensionality to it for sure.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, once you have been through enough of those in 3D, right, you can then learn online or from books because you've seen the form in 3 dimensions. And that is something I see myself getting really into, is figurative, not only drawing or painting, but sculpting as well, and doing
Mm-hmm.
like large scale sculptures. And because of my love for the dark and weird, like making creatures,
Yeah.
right? Because creatures are just an extension of the human anatomy. If you
Hmm.
understand how to compose the human figure, and then you start distorting the proportions, then you have creatures, you have monsters. And I love that exploration. And I still love the dark and weird. And now since I've done the light and the majestic, and then now bringing them all together into potentially new art form, and to be able to teach this process as I go, right? So it would be like a win-win for the artist and the teacher to be able to create and share the process of creation and teach how to do what I'm doing as I'm moving forward. So that's what I see what's coming next for me.
That's amazing, man. I could totally see you creating your own world. Like one of the things that
Mm.
I know we talked about this. It kind of broke my heart a little bit when I was like, "Ah, I love the X-Men so much. You're like, I'm more of a DC guy. I was like, I don't know. But
Yeah.
like to me, like the creators of the characters and stuff was always really interesting to me, and I always loved that part of the art too. And probably a lot of people listening to this would maybe be surprised, but when I was drawing, it was really I was really drawn to comics, and most of my drawings were, and I think for a lot of little boys, I mean, Alex Gray talks about this in his book, like we draw monsters and stuff where there's something interesting. And to me, there was always, it's not that I was interested in like the dark, it was more that I was interested in the character and
Mhm.
the there was a story behind these
Mhm.
beings. And that's what I loved about comics too, because it was never really um like it was never really like evil and good. It was like the stories had the characters had stories. The villains had a reason why they were the way they were. They'd gone through some kind of journey. And I feel like this is part of the archetypal journey that we all go through as humans as we're awakening, is like we have these parts of us that are in inner conflict, and we have to step back and make resolve, embrace them. Otherwise, they show up sideways. They show up in addiction. They show up in conflict. They show up if we don't make peace with them, with ourselves. So a lot of the drawings I did were like monsters and stuff. And as you're talking, I'm going to make a public commitment, because I've been thinking a lot about community, and I was listening to Sam Ovens talking about this, and like many, I think, people who discover school and how much we love it, I just went into way too many directions. I'm like, I love everything, but every time I think things like, I think it's Mary Kondo who talks about the art of organization and like this, that following the spark of joy. Whenever I think of your community, Infinite Artists, it's always the brightest one, and I know I need to show up there. So I'm going to show up, because what I see myself doing, my next stage as an artist, Alex, is creating XR, interactive co-creative worlds, where I can share a lot of my traditional art in there, but really to use art as a bridge to communicate a higher a potential. And I think that's what you're doing when you talk about awakening the artist within. And I do feel like art itself and creativity plays such a profound and pivotal role to helping us um, to transcend this lower binary fighting polarized experience, which is just, there's so many people living in fear. And I feel like when you were talking about people sitting around a table drawing together, I've been in a few of those rooms and I love it, because it's like whether you're doing cartooning or just sketching or
Mhm.
doing models, because I did take some life drawing classes too, and I really love that stuff. It's like there's just a piece, because I don't know about you, but when I just go and just sketch and just, it's like it's a meditation. Like everything, nothing else matters. Just that smallest little line, whether it's
Oh,
the colors that are,
Nathaniel, I think
interacting.
we're freezing a little bit.
Oh, really? Oh no, it doesn't seem to be freezing on my end. Are you good
Okay.
now? Yeah. Everything looked
Yeah, I
lucid
see
for
you.
me.
Yeah.
Everything looked lucid. So, okay.
Okay, cool.
Well, anyways, I'm going to show up more in Infinite Artists because I really feel, and I'm going to encourage all our listeners here to, everything you're saying is so important to awakening our potential. And because this is the one thing that I noticed with a lot of people, Alex, I've heard so many people in my life say, I can't draw. And I love how you make it, you're like, well, can you write your name? Let's start there. Because I feel like
Yes.
parents need that, for children that want to do art or it's because it does bring up all this self-esteem stuff when we start drawing and we're not good at it right off the bat, whether it's playing music or writing or drawing. It's always the same thing. And having a guide, a mentor like you, who's been through the extreme professional journey that you've been through, and now imparting your presence and your focus, I think is a real gift. So I really appreciate you having the humility as and in allowing that teacher to step forth and for your artist to allow that because I feel like it really is a testament to like a level of spiritual maturity and a growth of an artist.
Mm. Wow. I appreciate that, brother. Appreciate it so much. I'm excited to see what you're going to start sharing in the group. And yeah, the group is made so that we not only do challenges, but everyone can post what they're working on and share their older work and share their newer stuff and share their struggles. And it's, still a nascent community. And, I am ideating, as you know, different course ideas. But one thing that really is I've been thinking about for years now is just to have an ongoing art class. And so that would be
Mm,
called the Infinite Artist Master Class.
cool.
One art class to rule them all. I'll make it sound mythic and
That's
like Lord
cool.
of the Rings. Yeah. And it would really kind of come to the basics of creating 20 minutes a day.
Mm,
And so why 20 minutes? There's a great book called Your Brain on Art, and they go over the neuroscience and all the data about if you just took 20 minutes a day
mm,
to express yourself creatively or immerse yourself. Let's say you draw one day, and the next day you go to a museum, and the next day you maybe go to a live music show, just to immerse yourself in what they call the neuroaesthetics, all of the arts. It will, and it does have massive health benefits, massive. So if anything, create art for your health. And there's this one amazing study where they've kind of calculated all the times and date and they're like, if you go to one art thing a month, it could be a museum, it could be a show, you create art for 45 minutes from a month, you will extend your life by an average of 10 years.
wow.
Yeah. And that
That's
they're like,
wild.
here's the data, here it is, it's all there. Yeah, Your Brain on Art, highly recommend that book. So
I'll
they
check that out.
actually, yeah, they contemplated naming the book 20 Minutes on Art because they're like, that is the gist
Mm,
of it. 20 minutes a day in some kind of creative, expressive thing. And so that's my idea for this like ongoing living infinite artist masterclass and to have it like 5 days a week, 20 minutes. I show up, you show up, we make art, we're done, right? As a way to fulfill that creative itch. And for people that want to take it further, I offer one-on-ones and more intensive one-on-one stuff. But 20 minutes, 20 minutes a day to express yourself is that's kind of where I'm honing in on that messaging because
that's
it's
really
it's
cool,
real.
man.
Yeah.
I mean, not to put any pressure like in the middle of a podcast, but you know what? It's interesting because I started doing, because I launched a soul alignment community co-creation program. And so I'm
Mm.
helping other builders, and I have a few friends. One is actually an artist who helps do, he works in the art world as an art hanger. And he has this huge passion to help parents heal their relationship with their children through art. And I have another
Wow.
family who is a musical family, and they make the most beautiful new earth music, but they haven't been
Mm.
heard. They haven't had their breakthrough yet in a way that really deserves it. And then there's another more health oriented movement, life design guy. But what I said, with the art, because Paul was my first person I worked with, and I was doing Julia Cameron's morning pages for
Mm.
years, and I expanded on them because I didn't really like something with words, calling them morning pages. I don't want to be mourning every day. And this idea of rising pages, I expanded on that. And I told Paul,
Ah.
why don't we get together and I have it in our community where we have rising pages. I call it the rise and shine for and the hour. And what we've been doing is doing the usually takes about 20-25 minutes to do the 3 pages of rote consciousness. And then I said, let's just do art creativity for the remainder of it and just see what's happening. We've been doing this actually regularly. I don't even know if I have my sketchbook here, but what I was thinking about doing is offering a community constellation where we share, where I can share the event link and we could do it like on Zoom or whatever, and just
Mm.
have multiple communities who just have the ability to come together and just do that as part of a premium offering between communities. So I don't know if that interests you to like have a gathering of people because we could have like maybe several communities coming together and have
Yeah,
opportunities to connect through doing art. So and
that
that's
sounds
every
amazing.
I'm doing it every day.
Amazing.
So
Really?
yeah, so you wouldn't always have to be the one showing up. Like if you have other things is what I'm saying. So
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
just
yeah.
yeah.
Please keep me posted on that. That sounds
Okay.
great.
Okay,
That's what I'm
cool.
talking about. Yeah, because
Yeah.
people want to create with other people. I mean, creating alone is cool for maybe detail work, but it's just nice to be around other people who are creating. That's why I think we're on school. It's all about community, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
what we need more than
absolutely.
ever. And yeah, just
Yes.
being in the room, knowing there's other people doing it, it's like that's why I liked going to the life drawing classes too. It's like there's other people doing it. It'd be kind of weird
Mhm.
if it's just you're just this like really wealthy guy who just hires a naked people to come in and just by yourself draw them.
Right.
Go around the room from different angles.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
different when you have a community. It's like, okay, this is cool.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Isn't just the
Amazing,
Titanic
brother.
over and over again every day.
Oh my God. I love that scene.
So what are
Yeah.
some transformations that you've noticed? I know it still is a nascent community, like you said, but like what have you noticed? What's lit you up, Alex, about doing the community building stuff? And like what have you seen some transformations in others?
Yeah. Great question, first of all. And it's just first of all, just realizing there is such a deep hunger for community. And if all you can do is online, well, that's all you can do. But I think ultimately kind of pushing things toward the in real life thing. But watching people grow in their creativity. There's people that have been an infinite artists since the beginning, and we've done a monthly challenge every month. And just to see how people have grown in their creativity, they're different people because they've done the challenges. And we've been doing some heavy work. We've done a shadow work challenge, and that was an intense month in October. And then we did a
Mm,
Simpsons challenge because I wanted to lighten it up. People got really good at drawing the Simpsons, and I think people started
that's so cool.
realizing that their range was way bigger than they
Mm,
thought.
mm,
And ultimately, as we're discussing that, you control the line, you control the drawing. So, yeah, a big part of it is a sense of control with the magic wand that we call the pencil.
mm.
In this day and age, there's so much that it seems the world is kind of losing its mind and there is no sense of control. But what you can control is your tool,
Yeah.
even if it's just a pencil,
Hmm.
and giving that sense of, again, control is such a clingy word, but it's a sense of empowerment
Yeah.
to an individual who feels that they're losing control in life.
Mm,
And then to let them know that, hey, that thing you have laying around on your table and
yeah.
that those other surfaces you have in the form of a notebook or something, this can give you a sense of grounding and control and empowerment like you've never known before. So reminding people in the community that they have this power
Yeah.
in the most simplest of tools, and the imagination takes over from there. Of course, you got to repetition, intensity, doing the same thing over. Like if you want to get good at drawing an eye, you got to draw like 100 eyes.
Mm,
But just helping people realize that they do have so much more power with the simplest of tools available, and that they can become the artists they were born to be with,
Yeah.
a simple pencil and a simple sketchbook. It's so simple. You don't need a lot. You don't need the big crazy space. You don't need expensive supplies. You just need very basic things and this kind of desire to want to do it, right? So really helping people to lean into what lights them up. So for instance, we're doing a photography challenge this month, and it's a very simple rule. Go out and just take pictures of things you enjoy. If you like your dog or your cat or your car or flowers or skies or birds or whatever, take pictures of that, post them in the group. It's the easiest challenge we've done. Um, but again, it's all about, as Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss, right? Follow what lights you up, and you'll never lose, right? And that can change in life. That can change, but you kind of, like a monkey swinging on a vine,
Yeah.
you go and you're like, oh, I love this and I love that. And focus is a whole other thing, right? How do we stay focused in such a chaotic world, right? And this is why I always bring it back to this concept of 20 minutes on art. If you can just give yourself 20 minutes a day
Yeah.
to really focus on your creativity, that will expand in all other areas of your life. And you'll look for other areas where you can then apply that same rule, like 20 minutes to work out, 20 minutes to take a nap in the middle of the day, 20 minutes to do this, to read, blah, blah,
Mm,
and to really get focused again. I think that is the big challenge for this generation is
mhm.
focus.
Yeah.
So, and watching people's focus get sharper over the past few months has been amazing as
That
well.
is
So,
amazing.
so many things. Yeah, so many things are starting to add up and people are starting to realize, hey, I'm becoming the artist I was born to be. That kind of tagline is starting to catch on
It's
in the
great, man.
group. It's
It's a great
really
tagline.
cool.
It's
Yeah.
really, I think it really it hit me in the heart because I think we all have this sense of desiring to be some kind of artist, and it doesn't have to be
Mhm.
like, a painter. It could
No,
be,
no.
a poet. It could be even
Yes.
a scientist is a good artist. Like people, I
Yes.
think the roots of science, like true science, are based in creativity. It's
Hmm.
creative ways of looking at things and then trying to, find new ways of understanding them. Everything is rooted in creativity. So
Yes.
we're like the soul is desires to express, and so I
Mm.
think you really are creating a resonant message that's going to really uplift a lot of people, Alex, and it's just such a joy
Mm.
to watch you step into a new role as a creator. um, yeah, I feel a kindred brotherhood with you, and I felt like
Mm.
that since since just first meeting you.
Mm.
I, I am mindful of your time. Do you have like a few more minutes, or is
Oh
it time
yeah.
to?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we
Okay,
can go a
cool.
few more for sure.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you.
I I think of children, and I think, as you were talking about focus, what came to me is like, it is challenging to focus in this day and age. I know I've certainly struggled with it in a lot of ways. And that's after leaving pretty much every other social media platform. Even just on school, I find there's a lot of stuff, but just the day, I feel like it's the energy of the time we're in. And as I was listening to you, I was like, it is so much in the simplicity of, those little practices that we do. So I love the 20 minutes things. And when you were talking about the power of the pencil and just a blank piece of paper and learning that control, to me, this is there's this whole wave of people that I never really connected with, like we call new age kind of thinking, um, manifestation and stuff. And I believe we're all manifestors always. Like we are co-creating the circumstances of our life based on our thinking and our emotive, resonance of our electromagnetic fields. I feel like that's just scientific laws of creation where we are magnets and we magnetize. But there's this talk about, like manifestation as if it's this ability that some people um, have and others are maybe struggling to find. But when you're taking, it's like writing. You're taking the immaterial, like you said, what's inside, and you're bringing it out. It's direct manifestation when you're
Yeah.
drawing, when you're
Mhm.
writing, and being able to focus on what you're creating in that one moment. It really spoke to me, like how important that is. And I love how you talk about it as expanding out. So for like parents listening to this, we do have an audience that would be like conscious parents and
Mhm.
educators. How would you encourage them to prioritize that in their relationships or with the children that they're how like yeah, what do you have any guiding words for people to take on that skill in a world where it is crazy? Like, would you schedule it and make a ritual of
Mm.
it? How do you do that for yourself?
Yeah, I would absolutely say schedule it. Family art night, Wednesday nights at 6 p.m.,
Love
right?
that. Yeah.
Or if it's, yeah. And again, a lot of kids are naturally creative. Like when I was a kid, I was always drawing all the time. But again, in this day and age, to schedule it so that the family comes together is just do an art night
Mm.
together and plan, revolve everything around that. It could be as simple as that.
I think that's the key is keeping it simple.
Yes.
Everything you've said, expanding your range of creative potential and trying new things. I think as a family, that's super powerful as well. Now, I understand too, you've taken a little bit of time for yourself. You're in Austin. We didn't mention that as the show. Normally you're in Austin, but you're north of Austin now and you're back in nature. Do you want to talk a little bit about your decision to do that? And I feel like that's such an important thing for artists to kind of take space and go
Mm.
and connect. Yeah, where are you at in your journey now, Alex?
Yeah, so I'm up in Liberty Hill, which is an hour north of Austin, and my friends run a psychedelic medicine retreat space with some living quarters on the land. And so there's just really nothing much around here except trees and chickens and peacocks and horses. And it's just been, for me, it's been a great nervous system reset
Mm,
and a way to kind of plan things moving forward. But um, my, my work with them is to bring, art and creativity as a way to, create and to manifest something either during a medicine psychedelic ceremony or after. So using art as integration, right,
yeah.
is something that we'll be doing here. And then for me, just like for last month, we had a challenge called Drawn to Nature.
Mm,
And so I told everyone, get out, get outside, enough of the screens, like get out into nature and draw something. So it's not easy for a lot of people, but for me, I came up with that challenge even before I moved here last month. So because I had this intense desire to draw trees and we can all probably see trees from where we're at in our homes. And some places it's a bit cold. So I told people,
bit
hey, if it's
cold.
too
It was
cold,
like minus
yeah,
30
yeah,
Celsius here that month.
that's cold. So I
A
was
bit
like,
cold.
draw a plant. Hopefully you
Yeah.
have a plant inside. If you
Yes.
don't have an actual plant, pull up a picture of a plant and
Yeah.
draw it, right? If
Yeah.
anything, draw something that is born in nature, born with the sunlight as we originally were, right? Trying to get back to that the kind of source of what we're connected to. And yeah, really looking forward to helping people connect back to not only nature, but their inner nature and their selves. And a lot of times people they don't know what to draw. So I'm like, draw someone you love and give it to them as a gift. Draw a
Mm,
face, right? So many people get caught up in like, I don't know what to draw. And I always say, at the end of the day, we're really only creating three different things:
mm,
characters, environments, and abstract.
mm,
So humans, animals, creatures, characters, environments, houses, trees, buildings, environments, cars. If you like cars, great. And abstract, things like light language, sacred geometry, symbolism, logos, things like that. Then the cool part is combining those three
mm,
together into unique things. And from there, it's an infinite playground of things you can create. So if kids like drawing superheroes like we did, well, that's a character-based thing, right? And
yeah.
so some kids, they want to draw trees and houses, and that's cool, and flowers, that's environment. So we can really boil it down to simple things. I always encourage artists to keep a list going of things that you want to draw. You might not be able to draw them in the given moment, but you, with enough practice, will get good enough to be able to draw. And you just pull out your list and be like,
Mm.
that's what I want to draw. And then you can start drawing. Yeah.
That's a beautiful practice, man. Yeah. And I really appreciate you coming in with the the assistance of integration with any plant ceremony work. I have mixed feelings around it. I've talked to some, some medicine people who assist with it, and I mean, there's a lot of people looking for their answers in plant medicines, and I think that those medicines are huge gifts to humanity. But there is also like an economy behind a lot of those things, and there are people who can get hurt to a degree where sometimes they don't
Oh
come
yeah.
back the same. And
Yep.
I feel like you have this really beautiful opportunity to not to see the impacts of having art even before a ceremony and after, because really the integration of all those different plant helpers is the most important part is the integration, because they teach us
Yes.
something, right? They teach us, okay, this is a vibrational expression of consciousness that you probably understood, when you were very young or pre-physicality, and here's the reminder, like this is accessible to you. But I never felt with any of those plant medicines that the point was to just keep taking those plant medicines to be tripped out all the time. It really is about going on a
Mhm.
journey and then bringing back. And I feel like the most important piece where a lot of people can get lost in the weeds is in the integration, because like people fly down to Peru, they have this experience for a week, and then they come back to like the crazy hustle and bustle of the Western world, and they're tripping out because like they were just talking with Jesus and riding on a rainbow unicorn and the cosmos, and now all of a sudden they have to deal with New York traffic.
Oh my God, right. And then they haven't taken the steps to integrate it. And that can be on the fault of the actual medicine facilitator that a lot of these people do not teach integration, which is really, I think it's very sad and like you said, dangerous.
It is
You have
dangerous,
to
yeah.
integrate these experiences. You have to integrate them and take the time to create from them and to learn and heal from them before you jump in. I know so many people, they're just going from one to another, and that's kind of their thing, and without any integration. And without integration, it's kind of a useless, ultimately a useless thing that I see. So I totally
Yeah.
agree. It needs to
Yeah.
be integrated.
Yeah, I feel like part of the role of becoming creative is to bring more of our essence actually into our body and into Mother
Mm,
Earth, because all of those objects that we're creating, works of art, whether it is shadows that needs to be embraced, or characters that need some loving, or these are like, just soulful expressions of higher visions or whatever they are, they all add to the body of work that is on Mother Earth. I think that's why there's this reverence for like artworks and stuff, is like, I was
mm,
talking to Paul, like he was telling me about like hanging Jackson Pollocks, which are like, for people who don't know Jackson Pollock, he would just like throw house paint, like this, like not even good quality paint, just throw it at this big canvas, and
yeah.
emotional fury. And like a lot of those paintings worth like millions of dollars, and he's hung them in like the art galleries that he works with.
Wow.
And so we were joking, he's like, he's held like $1 million pieces of garbage, like, and this is, and
That's great.
it's just tongue in cheek. Don't take any offense, art
Yeah.
community. But like it is, there's a reverence for the creative expression, even though that's just a piece of canvas with random splats of paint that capture a moment and someone's expression. It's there's value in it. Like we value it. So I love what you've brought in this conversation, that really I think balances that this age, because I remember that turning point, like when digital art was just becoming a thing and people were having computers. Like I had friends who were like, I'm just doing digital art now. I'm like, and I always loved feeling the paper and the pencil, and
Yeah.
pushing the paint and just seeing like the like, especially watercolor to me is like,
Mm,
there's such deep teachings of the our relationship with water and how our
yeah.
consciousness reflects, and you can't capture that on digital. And yet it's like the analog digital debate with music. Is like analog got to such a high point in the 80s, was like the best sounds, of high fidelity, and then digital came in, it was so bad, it was like this, like, like, you could just tell it was like jarring sound. But now the blending of those worlds, some of the music that's been created is really
Hmm.
profound. So, and I feel like this is the truth with art too. I mean, here you are creating art with people all over the world. And people might not know about this about school, right? But you have a map in your classroom, you can see where people are, and they can tune in from wherever and do art live with you. I mean, that's really something. And you can not
Yeah.
only have these experiences, but you can you can catalog them. You can put them in a
Mhm.
classroom. They can live there. So like you're also building a legacy, Alex, which I think is really cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Well said. So well said, brother.
All right. I feel like the conversation's tapering a little bit. So, what's the best way to connect with you? There's infinite artists. What are some other ways, or is there another way to connect with you too,
Yeah,
Alex?
Instagram is where I kind of post my art, and now I'm sharing stories about infinite artists. So at Alex Ruiz dot artist. So my name, Alex Ruiz dot artist.
Okay,
And that's really it for now. It's just Instagram and
cool.
then school. So they can find it
Awesome.
on school. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Alice, I always love to ask our inspiring guests if you had a megaphone and could talk to the whole world all at once and everyone could hear you, what would you like to share?
Mm, that's such an amazing question. And, bringing it back to this idea of consistency and creativity. And, we talked about 20 minutes on art. And I would just say if you just had 5 minutes per day to express yourself in a scribble or a word, that's what you do, right? And 5 minutes a day, and after, let's say, a year, you've had a sketchbook of your 5 minutes a day drawing. That is a beautiful relic. That is a beautiful piece of art, and no doubt it's going to inspire you. So create something for 5 minutes a day, non-negotiable, or
I love that,
else.
man. I commit to that. 5 minutes a day max. I'm gonna aim for 20.
Yes.
I think that's such a valuable skill, and I love how you say like it expands out in other areas of our life.
Yes.
Such a joy having you on the show, Alex. Unless there's
Mm,
anything else you'd like to share with our audience, I just really appreciate you coming on, man.
amazing. Thank you, Nathaniel. It was a pleasure, and I hope we get to do this again soon.
Sounds great, man. Well, I'm just going to invite our daughter Luciana to come and
Yes.
say thanks for watching, everyone. And yeah, look forward to seeing you in school and hearing more about your adventures on the land and seeing how the inspiration unfolds and what Infinite Artist becomes.
Mm, beautiful. Thank you.
All right, talk to you soon, brother.
Okay. Love you, bro. Take
Love
care.
you too.
For watching.
Didi Rockton.
Say have a great day.
Have a great day.
I love you.
I love you.
See you soon.
Soon.
Hey, bye. Macho. Mwah.
Woo!